What matters more to God, our rules or our hearts? The scene opens with Jesus and his disciples walking through a wheat field on the Sabbath. As they pick heads of grain to eat, Pharisees appear, pointing fingers, accusing them of breaking Sabbath law. Jesus, calm yet firm, responds by reminding them of David, who ate the consecrated bread when he was hungry. He then declares, "The Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath," challenging them to consider the true purpose of the Sabbath. This moment isn't merely about hunger. It's about compassion over ritual, heart over habit. Jesus invites us to see God's laws as pathways to love and healing, not restrictions that bind. In our lives, how often do we cling to rules, missing the heart behind them? Jesus teaches us that God values mercy above sacrifice, a reminder that in each rule, the true intent is love. With the Pharisees unsettled, Jesus moves on, drawing his disciples deeper into the essence of his message, one that will soon reveal itself in an act of healing. Is it wrong to do good when others judge? Inside a synagogue, a man with a withered hand stands among the congregation. The Pharisees watch closely, testing Jesus, asking, "Is it lawful to heal on the Sabbath?" Jesus, looking around at the crowd, responds, "If any of you has a sheep, and it falls into a pit on the Sabbath, will you not lift it out? How much more valuable is a person than a sheep?" With compassion, he tells the man to stretch out his hand, and it is restored before their eyes. This healing isn't just a miracle. It's a powerful statement about compassion that transcends judgment. It's a reminder to us that in moments of decision, love should lead our actions, not fear of others' opinions. Just as Jesus healed without hesitation, we are called to act with kindness, even when society stands in criticism. As the healed man marvels at his restored hand, Jesus quietly moves on, aware of the Pharisees' growing anger. Yet his purpose is steadfast, revealing the true nature of God's kingdom. How does God's power appear in gentleness? Leaving the synagogue, Jesus continues his journey, followed by crowds seeking healing. Though he commands them not to reveal his identity, Matthew describes him as the fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy. "Here is my servant whom I have chosen, the one I love, in whom I delight." Unlike a conqueror, he does not shout or raise his voice. He doesn't crush the weak but strengthens them. This is a vision of divine power in humility, where gentleness becomes strength and healing flows from love, not dominance. In our world, power often seeks attention, but Jesus shows us that true strength lies in quiet compassion. His approach challenges us to redefine power in our own lives, inviting us to embrace gentleness as a form of divine strength. With each healing, whispers spread of Jesus' quiet authority, but opposition grows, leading to a confrontation where the line between good and evil will be questioned. How do we discern God's power from deception? A man possessed by a demon, unable to see or speak, is brought to Jesus. With a word, Jesus frees him, restoring his sight and speech, leaving the crowd astonished. Yet some Pharisees murmur, accusing him of driving out demons by the power of Beelzebul, the prince of demons. Jesus, seeing their blindness to God's truth, counters, "Every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined. But if I drive out demons by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God has come upon you." This moment challenges us to discern truth from deceit. Jesus invites us to see that where freedom and healing occur, God's Spirit is present. In our lives, we too must seek discernment, looking past appearances to recognize where true goodness resides. When faced with doubt, we are called to trust in actions that bring light, unity, and healing. With this message, Jesus reveals that every choice shapes our alignment, an alignment that holds weight not only in this world, but in eternity. What words and choices define our hearts before God? Turning to the crowd, Jesus speaks about the gravity of words and actions. He warns, "Every kind of sin and slander can be forgiven, but blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven." He explains that those who speak against God's Spirit in defiance of truth risk severing themselves from redemption. This teaching is a call to honor the sacred, to recognize that our words and choices reveal the condition of our hearts. We're reminded that faith isn't just about outward actions, but about an inward openness to the divine. It's a message to hold our words with care, knowing that they echo the true state of our spirit. With this powerful truth in their minds, Jesus turns to share a story, a parable that sheds light on the hearts willing to receive or resist God's presence. How do we respond to signs of God's presence in our lives? Some Pharisees demand a sign from Jesus, seeking proof of his divine mission. Jesus responds by referencing Jonah, saying, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a huge fish, so the Son of Man will be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." He warns that those who ignore signs are like empty houses, vulnerable to greater darkness. This passage asks us, when God's signs appear in our lives, through guidance, blessings, or challenges, how do we respond? Jesus reminds us that faith grows not from endless proofs, but from a willingness to trust and transform. We are invited to stay vigilant, to fill our lives with faith, lest we become like empty homes, open to shadows. As Jesus speaks of signs, he draws a contrast between those who embrace wisdom and those who let it slip away, bringing the conversation to a parable about belonging. What does it mean to be truly close to God? While Jesus is speaking, his mother and brothers wait outside, wanting to speak with him. But he turns to the crowd and says, "Who is my mother, and who are my brothers?" He gestures toward his disciples, saying, "Whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother." This is more than a statement about family. It's an invitation to intimacy with God, defined by our openness to his will. Jesus redefines family as those bound not by blood, but by shared purpose and spiritual alignment. It's a reminder that closeness with God is not just about heritage or tradition, but about the choices we make to live in his love and grace. With these words, Jesus completes his teachings in Matthew 12, leaving his listeners with a new understanding of true kinship with the divine, a relationship built on love, openness, and the willingness to embrace his call.